now we're going to go over projecting net worth using assets that appreciate. So we've already done this with assets that depreciate and used borrowing and saw what that did to our net worth. We then did assets that depreciate without borrowing. And now what we're going to do is see how purchasing assets that appreciate, in other words, reasonably believe they'll go up in value. This would be stocks, bonds, investments in business, possibly gold, or other type of investments that we're doing. Okay, so we kind of basically have the exact same board here again. I've got $100 in income, I've got $30 in taxes, I got expenses, and this is going to leave me $10 cash left over. And so at the end of the year, the $10 that we have left over is going to flow to our balance sheet as an asset. And we are going to purchase appreciating assets, assets that we believe are going to go up in value, such as stocks, bonds, investments in businesses, etc. And when we invest this $10, then our net worth is $10 because currently we have no liabilities. So now this is going to stay there for a year, and during the year number 2, we're going to have this exact same thing happens again. Except if we're going to earn a 10% rate of return on $10, that's $1. And so we're actually going to then have what's called investment income. So now we have investment income. This fund is generating money, right? So then it falls down through here, and I have $11 in income. So at the end of that year, this $11 is then added in, and we add that up, and we end up with $21 in our fund, which gives us $21 in net worth. And this process keeps repeating itself. I now have $21 in my investment fund. If I get a 10% rate of return, that is going to generate $2. And that $2 is going to fall all the way down here to where I have $12 left over. So the $12 comes up here, I add $12, and I end up now with $33 in my fund. Still no liabilities. So my net worth is $33. And as we go through this process, 10% of 33 is 3, which gets us 13 down here, which then we're going to add 13. So that now we have $46 in this fund. So net worth now over here is 46. And I'm just going to erase this to kind of bring it up to the top so that we're not running out of room. Now 10% of 46 is 4.6. So rounded to the nearest dollar, this fund is now going to make $5. So now we're at $5 and 15. And at this point, now we really start to see our net worth taking off. This fund is now going to start generating a lot of money. And so then 15 comes over, we add 15, and now I got $61. So net worth is 61. 10% of 61 is 6, and so appreciating assets flow to us as investment income. So this is 6, drops down to 6. Now next time I invest $16, and now I have $77 invested. We're going to carry this through about 2 more. And so 10% is 7.7, rounded to the nearest dollar. We're going to go 8. Gives us $18 left over. Going to add in 18. Gives us $95 now in our fund. So our net worth is $95. One of the things that happens with time value of money, and when you're investing in appreciating assets for extended periods of time, what is now going to happen is that I can almost stop putting this extra $10 in. And I can increase my spending. Now I'm going to go out and buy my car, right? Most of my friends went out and they bought their car or a whole bunch of other stuff way before they could afford to. They put no money in investments, but now maybe I put money in investments. And so now I'm going to spend more money. I'm basically going to spend all my income, but $95 rounded to the nearest dollar is 10. This fund in and of itself is generating $10 of investment income. And so therefore, even though I'm spending all my money from my job, this fund is still growing. This is going to fall down here. So this $10 now is going to come over here, and my total assets are $105. And then what happens at this point? Obviously it's 11, and then it keeps going 12, and it just grows and grows and grows. And so where our individual who was buying depreciating assets and borrowing money, they are so far in the hole that hopefully they can dig out and get a net worth of 0 in 7, 10, 12 years. The person who at least wasn't going into debt but buying a whole bunch of depreciating assets, they probably had one heck of a great garage sale of all the stuff that they bought, but still their net worth isn't much, as we saw. This one, buying appreciating assets, these assets are going to keep going up and up and up. And by harnessing this power, that's how we're going to generate $1 million. Very, very easily. It's just going to take off. If we look at this 100 as kind of a percentage amount, what we're saying here is if you started your first job and we're making $100, so now after 7, 8 years, you'd have $50,000 saved if you're earning $50,000 a year. If you're making $100,000 a year, you'd have $100,000 saved. And it's just going to go on and on and on and build assets and build assets. So that's buying, taking cash flow and buying appreciating assets. The key thing to remember in this process is that appreciating assets, assets that are going to go up in value, come back to you as investment income. They add income to you. They add net worth. Liabilities have to be supported. You have to pay interest on them because the bank doesn't do it for free. And so liabilities come back at you as an interest expense. And they increase your expenses, decrease your net worth, and suck out all your cash flow because you have to support liabilities instead of buying more assets or instead of going out and enjoying life within a budget. Okay.